Hi, welcome to Let's Do Books. I'm Tara, and you can email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with any questions or comments, or come join our Facebook group, The Lesbian Review Book Club. We're here to talk about this month's book club book, And Playing the Role of Herself by K.E. Lane. This episode will have spoilers, so if you haven't read it yet, go read it, come back, and then listen after that. I'm excited because I'm joined today by Erin Hodgson, one of my fellow reviewers at The Lesbian Review. Hello, Erin. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Tara. Thanks for having me.
So, this book, for the few intrepid listeners who are going to ignore my recommendation not to listen to this without reading the book, I'm going to tell them what it's about. So, Caidence Harris is an actress on a police procedural called Ninth Precinct. And sometimes she has to share her trailer with Robyn Ward, who is a model turned actress, who sometimes plays a defense attorney on the show. And Caidence has a desperate crush on Robyn. Caidence only has figured out within the last few years that she's gay. She's never actually been with a woman before, but oh goodness, what a crush she has on Robyn. And unfortunately, it just makes her like blush and giggle and kind of just be quite silly anytime Robyn is around. And it doesn't help anything that Robyn is actually straight and she's involved with this superstar in tennis, Josh Riley. But, you know, they actually managed to become friends despite Kate's horrible crush. She starts to be able to be articulate with Robyn, and they spend a lot of time together off the set. But then the season finale calls for this big encounter between them with a kiss, which, if you recall, the book it came out 10 years ago. So actually, like, a big kiss like that on screen is a really big deal. And Caidence realizes that actually maybe this attraction isn't as one-sided as she thought. So that's my rambly synopsis of what this book is about.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Erin, do you have a favorite character?
Yeah, I think I'm probably Team Caidence, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Robyn just pissed me off a little bit.
Why?
She was just a little too up and down, and, you know, push me, pull me, and I just like easy. I just like it to be easy.
That's interesting.
Caidence is a little more honest with herself about how she feels and things, and I guess I'd identify with that more than Robyn, who is very like, you know, I want to hide, I don't want to do this, I'm not sure if I want to do this type thing, and I just kind of, I don't know, I liked Caidence better.
Okay, that's really interesting. I actually think my favorite character is Liz, if I'm being honest. Liz,
Yeah, down with that.
She is just one of my favorite, like, best friend characters in anything. She is so funny, and I think it's interesting how she's written as that, like, she's that child star who's managed to continue acting into adulthood. So there's kind of a bit of naivety about how things work sometimes. And when it got into her finding out about the slash fic written about her character and Caidence's, I laughed pretty hard because it was pretty amazing. But of the two mains, I ended up with quite the character crush on Robyn. And Caidence I really liked and could identify with a lot of the time. She was very funny, but the only thing I didn't like was that she was, well, actually, even saying that I didn't like it isn't fair. I found that she flew off the handle fairly easily.
Oh, that's me all over. So that's why I like it.
Oh, see, for me, I'm like I am a peacemaker. I don't like conflict a lot. So I think I would be pretty stressed out if Caidence was my girlfriend. But she was very funny and she was very real, and I kind of liked that she wasn't this like super perfect character. And I don't know, it felt like there was something quite honest about her being that angry. Like, it wasn't like we were seeing this polished version of her or anything.
Yeah, I think like maybe that's what made her slightly more real for me, was that she was a little bit more angry and out there with that, whereas Robyn, I think Robyn at times was angry, but she just didn't, you know, like, she didn't project that at all. But I did like Robyn. I was rooting for them the whole time, going, you guys got to sort your shit out. You know, like I was rooting for them the whole way through, going, this has to have a happy ending because otherwise why am I reading this? And it drove the whole way through the story. So I really was all about that relationship.
Have to admit, I wish we would have gotten more of Robyn's character, or her, not her character. I feel like we got enough about who she was, but I would love to have gotten some of her thought processes. What was she thinking going through all of this? Because I understand your frustration with her not wanting to be open, but at the same time also thinking she was a really high profile actress. This was released in 2007. There weren't that many high profile actresses who were out. How do you handle realizing you want something serious with somebody while also seeing she's finally getting to make a movie with a director that she really wanted to? Her career is at a really interesting place. So what is she feeling and thinking the whole way through? I noticed this is probably the fourth or fifth time I've read this book. It's actually the first lesfic book I ever read. So when you said this was the book you wanted to talk about, I maybe did a little cheer because it actually felt a little self-indulgent for me to be able to talk about this. But even noticing that, I don't think I picked it up before, but that scene when they do the table read and they actually find out that the big kiss is going to happen in the script, and Robyn's reaction and how she kind of goes white, and I don't think I put together before that the things she could have been thinking about how maybe it was because she was attracted to Kate as well. And also just that oh, are people going to figure this out about me? I've been trying to keep it hidden all this time. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think this particular book is possibly one of maybe 2 or 3 books ever that I've read in first person that I've enjoyed the whole way through. And I think for that reason, you do feel like you miss out on half of the story. And I think maybe I would have liked Robyn a little more if I had seen that from her. I don't generally like the first person narration. I think it cuts off so much of the story. And, I like to watch the whole thing. I like to see the whole thing. So I think that, it was really there, the things that you pointed out are exactly what I was left wondering as well. And like you, it wasn't my first, but it was right up there in maybe the first 3 or 4 actual lesbian novels that I read, and I was kind of left wanting more from that story, which is why I go back to it, and why I've gone back to it a number of times, is because it's every time I'm left with more questions than answers, and it is something that I hope one day, somehow randomly, a sequel will just pop on my desk and be hey, this is Robyn's story of what happened.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Unfortunately, I don't think she's involved in the lesfic scene at all anymore.
No, doesn't appear that way.
No.
Yeah. In fact, I think she's even changed her pen name, right?
I don't know. I don't know that she's writing at all anymore. Her website is gone, and
yeah, her website links to a different website though. There's a whole different. If I've done my research correctly, and I could have not, but yeah. So when I was looking for it, it was essentially went to somewhere different where she was look, I've changed my pen name because the other one linked to a whole lot of stuff that I didn't want. I think there was a suggestion that maybe there was some porn and stuff involved.
Oh, no.
It's just let's go a different way.
That's a shame.
So, yeah.
Well, at least we got this one book. So
yeah, I'd be interested to see some fanfic that resulted from this book. I don't know if that's even if there is any out there, but I'd be really interested to see what people could do with this story in a fanfic.
Which is interesting because I think it started out as fanfic, didn't it?
That's word on the street, but maybe.
It kind of reads I don't know, I didn't look into it, maybe I should have, and let's be honest, we're not going to do it right now. But it reads I forget what you call, what is it, real person fic? Sort of? When it's fanfic about actual people. It reads like fanfic about actors working on Law and Order. or Law and Order Special Victims Unit or something like that. And I know there was like a ton of fanfic about SVU. In fact, I have a friend who met her wife because she wrote, like, my friend wrote SVU fanfic, and her wife was a fan and contacted her, which I think is beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Awesome. Yeah.
What else did you think about how this was written? I mean, you talked about the first person and what that did for you, but did you have any other thoughts on how it was written, or the things like techniques or things she was talking about?
I guess, like, without throwing any spoilers in there, like, towards the end.
Go ahead and spoil it. We already warned them. We warned them about spoilers.
All right. Well, like, towards the end, when they started getting to the point where Caid was beaten up and there was all that stuff happening, and there was like it almost felt like it was a bit self-indulgent on the part of the writer, that there was like this stuff happening and it kind of got thrown in at the end. It was kind of building, like almost trying to just keep building and building and building the suspense of, are they going to get together? How is it going to happen? And I got a little frustrated there the first time I read it, but obviously carried on because I was like, hello, lesbians, awesome. And then and then like in subsequent readings of it, I can kind of get past it because I know that it's not a major part of the storyline, but it still, I guess I kind of felt like maybe she was just trying to make it longer. It didn't need to go there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have to admit, when I got to that part, I was like, oh, come on. Another thing is happening to Caid, this poor woman. Exactly. Because there's like the whole fiasco around when she goes on camping with her brother, and she's presumed dead, and then she, gets beaten like that. But I don't know. I guess I find it's a really easy read, which I like. Absolutely. Which I guess is kind of one of the, to go back to your thing about first person narration, I actually don't mind it when it's done well. And I feel like it is done pretty well in this case, because it lets you sort of inhabit that person and their thoughts and their perspective. And when done really well, then I don't mind not getting the other person's perspective. Like, I actually think the best lesfic book that does that is In the Distance There Is Light by Harper Bliss, which is, for anyone listening who hasn't read that, entirely different in content and tone and every way to this book. It is a beautiful book. It is not a fun book to read, but it's beautifully done. But there is something about that, being able to just inhabit a perspective and follow this person around for whether it's days or months or whatever. And I think this book does that really well. Like, we really get to know who Caid is for all of her faults and all of her good parts. And so I thought that was a strength of it. I don't know. It's just fun. Like, it kind of reads like a bit like a soap opera. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it's just super easy and fun to read. Like,
yeah, it is. It is a really easy read, and it's one of those reads where you don't have to think a lot. There's nothing overly intellectual about it. It's just there, and you can relate because, well, now reading it, you can relate because you hear of that sort of thing happening a bit more, and I think people are a bit more aware of that sort of stuff, right? The potential for two famous people to meet and hate each other on the outside and love each other on the inside, and I think that's the strength of it. Reading it now is that, and maybe that's why it's such a good book, because it is essentially timeless. There's always something that you can find and relate to, no matter when you read it, whether it's 2007 or 2017. I
will say the one thing reading it where it did feel a bit dated was, I guess, the fact that, it's not actually safe for two actors to just openly date, or that's really, like, reading it, it's very clearly a story that was before marriage equality happened in the States. Like, you can feel it's just a different political atmosphere.
Yeah, although I'm sure that some of the lesser known actors who have got that one break may very well still have a little bit of that trepidation about, coming out and being like, well, actually, hey, now I'm famous, I'm also going to come out. Like that, I can kind of see that would still maybe be a problem for some, but they should just get over it and do it.
It's true. Although I guess we don't know where things are going with politics in the States. So, I mean, maybe it will
Yeah.
become less safe again, unfortunately. But also, actually, on that note, given the way, politics are, and it's a bit of a garbage fire in the world right now, this is a really nice comfort read. Like, it's a nice book to read as an escape from the world, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those books that you don't realize how long you've been reading until you put it down and realize it's 1 a.m. and you're just like, hang on a minute. What just happened here? I just read it almost an entire book in an evening because it was that good. I just didn't put it down. I just kept going. Yeah, it's a really good read.
All right. So, what are your pros? What are your favorite things about this book?
Next question. Everything. It's hard to be specific. I really liked that the supporting characters were really strong, I thought. Like Liz in particular she is amazing as a character, and she's, you're like, can I just call her and have her over for a drink? Like, she would be so much fun, and she's such a bitch, and she's so awesome. So I think maybe the pros for me were that there's not just the two main characters that you fall in love with in the book. And often, particularly an author who's only put one thing out there, they can kind of concentrate on those two characters and the others kind of fall away a little. But she didn't do this, and the array of characters that you come across, even some of them that are only like a barely mention, like the James, her brother's friend.
Yes, I do.
He's like, reminds me of some of the friends I had at high school, I'm like, oh, I can see you guys tripping over yourself because there's a hot chick, like, it's just
sad and impulsive.
yeah, totally. And and that having those characters that just pop in and out of this book are just, for me, that's what made it such an interesting read the first time and again and again and again.
Yeah, I have to agree. And actually, I really liked Josh, and I don't usually bother even mentioning the men in lesfic books because, let's be honest, we're not reading them for the men. But at the same time, I thought he was really well done. He was really supportive, kind of one of the better men that I've seen written in lesfic, because usually we get, like, the occasional dad who doesn't have a lot of depth necessarily, or there are like ex-husbands who are very frequently jerks or whatever. But I just like that he was just a really good friend who is really supportive of both of them, and very easily let Caid into, like, he was very supportive of Robyn and Caid's relationship, so that he became just as good a friend with Caidence, and someone that Caidence could actually rely on. And he was cheering on the relationship even when she wasn't sure. Like, he was really good at spotting her insecurities and propping her up and making sure that she understood how much Robyn cared about her, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I thought he was a really he was the kind of person that you'd always want on your team. Because like, he even before Caidence came on the scene, like, what he was doing for Robyn, yes, there was benefits for him as well, but he was really 100% behind what she needed him to be. And then that evolved into something different, and he was supportive of that, even though it changed things for him on a personal level and made things harder for him. So yeah, I really liked Josh. I thought he reminded me of a character in something else, and I can't for the life of me think of what it is, but like maybe on the L Word or something there was a character like that. I don't know. But there was, yeah, like, he had that real Mr. Nice Guy and actually genuinely was nice. Yeah, instead of it just being a facade because, he wanted to sleep with someone or...
Right. I'm trying to think. Other pros. Yeah, like we already said earlier, Liz for sure. Also, definitely a pro for me. I will always be there for Liz. And just how, like, easy and comforting a read it is. Like, I can pick it up, flip to my favorite spot, read it, and it's kind of like a I don't know, it's sort of like coming home. It's a good read like that. Do you have any cons, or did we already kind of address them?
Yeah, I think the only one for me is the first person thing. Like like I said, it's not something that I ever really read. Yeah, like it isn't something that I usually enjoy. In this particular book, I get past that pretty quickly. But if you really struggle with that, then I think this book, but it is kind of an easy push. Like it's not something where you get dumped into it and you just kind of get left. It's almost like she held your hand and into it and then just kind of guided you through it quite nicely. It was quite, yeah. That con turned into a pro, didn't it?
It did. It did.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I think that's
Cons?
great.
No.
No cons.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious to see what I said in my review. All those. Oh, yeah. We did talk about it earlier. In my review for this book, I said, I don't know if this is actually a con, but Kate has so many bad things happen to her, it's almost like she's cursed. That, more than anything else, pushed the boundaries of believability for me. I agree with my former self who wrote this review. It is like she's cursed. It was kind of, I don't know. Which, I don't know if it's actually like a serious con or anything like that. I still had a good time. So
Yeah. I mean, like I said at the time, I think definitely it did push the believability a little. It was almost like the author had all these ideas as to what could happen and couldn't choose, so just went with all of them. And individually they were all great. Together they were kind of a little bit much, and you kind of felt like, okay, well, Robyn should just date this girl because, oh my God, look what she's been through.
yeah, someone needs to save her.
And maybe that was what was supposed to happen. Yeah, I agree with your former self.
All right. So, what's your in conclusion?
Just read it if you haven't. If you've managed to get to this point without having read the book and you've listened to the whole podcast, just read it. And if you've already read it, just read it again. It's good. It's that good that you can read it again and again and again and come back to it in 5 years' time and still read it again and still love it. That's my conclusion.
I got nothing else to add to that. That's a fantastic conclusion. I wholeheartedly agree. And that's all for this episode. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining me.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.
I'm glad you said that because you made a gesture and I was about to say nobody can see that. I'm Tara and you've been listening to Les Do Books. Remember to email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with your questions or comments. Don't forget to join us at our Facebook group, The Lesbian Review Book Club, so you can talk to us about and playing the role of herself and anything else you're reading and loving. You can also find me and all the other podcasters on the Lesbian Talk Show channel at our Facebook group, the Lesbian Talk Show chat group. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate this show and subscribe. To find this and many other great shows, all you need to do is search for the Lesbian Talk Show on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. That's it! Ta-da!
Nice. Just like I bought one. I can push stop now.